And let's start with our foreign affairs and defense correspondent, Nick Schifrin. So, Nick, how did this conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran actually start? How did we get to this point?
With an unprecedented decision by President Trump to launch joint U.S. or Israeli war to collapse the Iranian state. That's really how this started. Israeli and American officials described to me dozens of strikes on dozens of targets around the country. You can see the map there. The largest operation in Israeli history using Israeli jets as well as American Tomahawks and jets. Israel primarily focused on Iran's leadership as well as missiles whose range can target Israel. The U.S. targeted shorter range missiles that can hit U.S. bases and allies. And the single most significant strike targeted the headquarters of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader for the last 37 years. President Trump announced his death and called it, quote, justice for the people of Iran, but also all great Americans and those people from many countries throughout the world that have been killed or mutilated by Khamenei and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. So this was not the limited strike that was considered by the president or his aides, nor was this even limited to Iran's nuclear or missile program. This is a war to overthrow the Iranian regime, and not quick. The president himself admitted it could be days or weeks before this was done. There's no guarantee of success, and there's no knowing what will happen after that. But even some regional officials who were skeptical of this war before the war started, telling me tonight that now that the U.S. and Israel have started it, they need to see it through.
So, Nick, when it comes to that goal of potential regime change, how are U.S. officials making that case? So
President Trump basically addressed Iranians directly when speaking earlier today, and he said that this is a single opportunity for them, and he admitted it might not be easy for the U.S.
The Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations.
Then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed President Trump, speaking directly to the Iranian people.
Do not sit idly by, because soon your moment will come. The moment when you will be required to go out to the streets in your masses, to go out to the streets to complete the task and overthrow the regime of horrors that is embittering your lives.
That is a big ask, of course, Amna and Jeff, 1 month after the regime killed tens of thousands of protesters in the streets. One other thing, a senior administration official spoke to reporters this afternoon and added one additional argument that the U.S. assessed Iran was considering preemptive strikes on all of those U.S. assets in the region, even though those U.S. assets were just only recently deployed.
How has Iran responded to this, both militarily on the ground and then politically from Tehran's leadership?
You know, as you said, it's really an unprecedented response, not only because of the geographic range of the targets, but also the nature of the targets. Let's take a look at this map. Multiple regional officials confirmed to me Iranian strikes on targets in Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And I want to show you two specific attacks.
Oh my God.
Those attacks from downtown Manama, Bahrain, and before that from Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, the first ever Iranian attacks on residential or hotel targets on Arab countries that make up the Gulf Cooperation Council. In addition, we've seen missile attacks on Tel Aviv and multiple missile attacks on U.S. bases, although a military official tells me that they've only had minimal damage. Now, before the supreme leader spoke, we heard from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi saying that Iran was still interested in de-escalation, but he warned that the U.S. and Israeli attacks would fail.
You cannot, change this regime because it's supported by the people. Yes, there are also people who are complaining, but they are strong supporters of the regime, of the system at the same time. And then we have a very well-established political structure.
And Aranchi highlighted this video, a strike on a school that Iran says killed 100, mostly children. A military official telling me tonight the U.S. is aware of these reports and is investigating.
Nick, meanwhile, what are we seeing in the way of a political response from the rest of the world?
You know, Amna, before this attack, as you and I have talked about, many Gulf countries made it clear to the U.S. that the U.S. could not use their countries for an offensive strike on Iran. But all of those countries today not condemning the U.S. or Israeli strikes, instead condemning the Iranian counterstrikes, with one exception. The Omani foreign minister, he wrote, quote, active and serious negotiations have yet again been undermined. As for the U.S.'s NATO allies, they are divided today. We heard from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Canada, quote, supports the United States, but French President Emmanuel Macron said that the aggression must stop.
Nous devons multiplier les initiatives pour que la question se règle.
We must increase our efforts to resolve these issues through diplomatic channels, because no one can believe that the Iranian nuclear issue, ballistic missile activity, and regional destabilization will be resolved simply through strikes.
And the bottom line there, that just shows the uncertainty of what happens next.
Nick Schifrin kicking off our coverage tonight. Nick, thank you.
Thank you.